Try and do a transaction over $100,000 with Bitcoin. Sounds such a scam. Like, that's just totally BS. It's still garbage, and I'm not going to take real money and put it into this thing. It's never going to happen. I'm disappointed that we lost millions and millions of dollars.
And I take it that your investment now has been written down to zero, no?
Yes, it was written down to zero on our investment in FTX International, zero on our investment FTX USA, zero on all assets which have disappeared from our accounts. So that was a tough day. That's a hit. But he was one of the most brilliant traders in the crypto universe. He also built one of the most robust platforms. We used FTX actively. It was a very robust platform. His parents, I mean, you've never met nicer people than that. Sam, if 9 out of 10 people I talk to that have met him don't think he has an evil bone in his body. The guy was a really interesting guy. I still like the guy. I feel very sorry for him, but he's a good person. And at the end of the day, he got himself in a bad place.
If SPF knocked on your door again and said, look, I failed in my last venture. I have a new crypto venture. I need money. Would you back him? Would you back him?
The answer would be yes.
Wow.
Come with me as I explore the confusing and suspicious history of Kevin O'Leary's crypto journey. When did Kev get into crypto? Well, that's the $15 million question. But before we get into it, go ahead and hit that like button and that subscribe button, because on this channel, I give you the truth, and that's not what YouTube wants to spread. And if you don't, then YouTube might not let you find this channel again. Now let's get into it. A few days ago, under oath, Kevin O'Leary had this to say at a hearing about the FTX collapse in front of Congress.
In 2017, I was a public critic and skeptic of crypto and blockchain technology. As the global regulatory environment began to open up in 2018, I began to invest. In August of 2021, nearly 3 years after I started allocating capital to the crypto sector, I entered into an agreement with FTX to be a paid spokesperson. I was paid approximately $15 million for these services, plus approximately $3 million to cover the portion of the taxes due. Of the remaining amounts, approximately $1 million was invested in FTX equity and approximately $10 million in tokens held in FTX wallets. The equity is now most likely worthless, and the accounts have been stripped of their assets and, interestingly, financial records.
I don't know about you, but if I was anti-crypto and someone came and paid me $15 million to be pro-crypto, it might sway my mind a little bit.
Why do you believe FTX failed?
I have an opinion. I don't have the records. Here it is. This is a simple case in my mind of where did the money go? And I said, Sam, walk me back 24 months. Tell me the use of proceeds of the assets of your company. Where did you spend it? And then he told me about a transaction that occurred over the last 24 months. I didn't know this at the time, but at some point, CZ or Binance, who runs Binance, purchased 20% ownership in Sam Bankman-Fried's firm for seed stock. And then, over time, and I asked him, what would compel you to spend $2 billion was the number he was giving me at that time. Later, in a subsequent conversation, about 24 hours later, he told me it could have been as much as $3 billion to buy back the shares from CZ. I asked him, what would compel you to do that? Why wouldn't you keep your assets on your balance sheet? And why would you offer this to just one shareholder? Apparently, according to Sam Bankman-Fried, CZ would not comply with the regulators' request in these different geographies, these different jurisdictions, to provide the data that would clear them for a license. He withheld it, according to Sam Bankman-Fried. The only option the management and Sam Bankman-Fried had was to buy him out at an extraordinary valuation of close to $32 billion, less apparently a 15% discount. That stripped the balance sheet of assets. You ask me why it went bankrupt? Go to the last week.
I'm not sure why Kevin O'Leary said that happened a week ago, because it's been public knowledge that FTX bought back those shares from Binance since July 22nd of 2021, as you can see right here. And I'm actually pretty surprised that Kevin O'Leary wouldn't know that. Maybe he didn't do his due diligence.
All of a sudden, in social media, CZ is asking for another $500 million. He wants to do a block trade of FTT, or the proprietary token of FTX. wants it converted back to fiat. Why would you put that out there? You know it's going to push down the pressure. It's going to push down the value of that coin dramatically, and that's exactly what happened. Every trader knows that if you have a large block trade, you go negotiate a clearing price with other buyers and you do the transaction. In my view, my personal opinion, these two behemoths that own the unregulated market together and grew these incredible businesses in terms of growth were at war with each other. And one put the other out of business intentionally.
It is true that if you're going to trade that much of an asset, usually you're going to do an over-the-counter trade through a clearinghouse or something like that. And CZ announcing that he was going to be liquidating all of those FTT tokens could have definitely pushed them over the edge, but it definitely wouldn't have if SBF wasn't already mismanaging customers' funds. Kevin kind of does have a point because Binance selling all of those FTT tokens definitely didn't help the situation, but to me it seems like Kevin is just trying to find someone to blame because he skipped his own due diligence.
Binance is a massive, unregulated global monopoly now. They put FTX out of business.
Binance is a pretty big monopoly, and that's something to be concerned about, but that's another story for a different day. I don't believe that Binance single-handedly put FTX out of business, and someone needs to tell Kevin that he lost all of his money so he doesn't have to be a spokesperson for FTX anymore. But I digress. Then a couple days later, Kevin was called out by the mainstream news.
Time goes so quick. It seems like only yesterday, I was totally arguing with you on Squawk Box. You went from Charlie Munger's view on Bitcoin to Michael Saylor's view on Bitcoin. And I actually kidded you about it. I said, who are you? You may know nothing, but you're never in doubt. You're so strident when you said it was just worthless and rat poison. And then 6 months later, you're like this Bitcoin bull. So I didn't understand that conversion. Did that conversion coincide with the 15 million that you got from FTX?
No, I was investing 3.5 years earlier than that. I changed my mind back in early 2018 when
I got to stop you. Stop you. You just said you made this conversion in what year?
I think it was 2018 I started investing, yeah.
Okay, well, I just for, as a point of fact, for what it's worth, May 14th, 2019, you came on television and called Bitcoin garbage. Just
then I'm wrong. It's the year later.
And keeps it in
I'm
terms
sorry,
of
guys.
Keeping the time. But also, Kevin, so prior to that, you hadn't looked at it at all. I wonder about Munger. I wonder about a lot of it. Most of the people that call them Beanie Babies have never looked into actually how it works. Had you not looked into it, and yet you had those very strong opinions about Bitcoin?
Looks like he's starting to have a little bit of trouble with his story here. Here's the clip in question.
It is a useless currency. It is a useless currency. That's what I believe. I mean, look, I'm not, I realize people have different opinions, but to me, it's garbage. You have to somehow hedge the risk of Bitcoin. That means it's not a real currency. That means the receiver is not willing to take the risk of the volatility it has. It's worthless. I believe that.
Okay. Speaking truth.
He also said this the same day.
It's a very scarce asset. We're about a year out from the halvening, so it's going to get about half as scarce in the monetary schedule.
That sounds really exciting.
Historically, that's been a big moment in terms of it really is a price driver because it reminds people that there's only 21 million of these.
It's just an arbitrary thing, right? Cut it in half in terms of the units.
Well,
I
called it garbage this morning.
I did say that. I want to explore the idea that there is nothing here except raw speculation. Mm-hmm. No different than when I go to Las Vegas and put my money on black or red on a roulette wheel, because where is the intrinsic value inherent in deploying real capital? Let's talk real money here, and putting it into Bitcoin as a storage of value. I get gold. For 2,000 years, including the Romans, they saw value in owning that as an asset class. Tell me why this, which is basically a digital game, that's the way I look at it, has any intrinsic value. When people actually put real money into this, they make no interest, they can't pay their taxes with it, the regulators don't like it, which is always a problem for compliance. And where's the long-term value? Just this idea that they're going to cut the number of units in half, such a scam. Like, that's just totally
BS.
Well, neither is U.S. dollars, and how big is your cash position?
You know, look, I love your optimistic view of it. You haven't changed my mind at all. It's still garbage, and I'm not going to take real money and put it into this thing. It's never going to happen. I mean, imagine real money, taking real dollars that I'm making in cash 2.1% on and putting it into crypto crap.
Agree to disagree.
The garbage.
I think a little colorful language is necessary when discussing Bitcoin. There's no question about it.
Anthony, thank you.
Why would he be saying that in 2019 if he was invested since 2018? It doesn't really make any sense. But he also had this to say in August of the same year.
I have my crypto crap wallet. I put $100 into it 2 months ago at a Harvard Business School class at night. It's worth $30.62, primarily because all the other crap, Ethereum, XRP, Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin, Stellar Luminous, blah, 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 blah. What happened to all that stuff? If this is really such a great idea, why is there only one Vegas game working?
Yeah, over 50% of my net worth's in Bitcoin, and I don't plan to sell it.
I forbid that. That's insane. Shame on you. That's nuts.
So to be fair, he did say that he put in $100 2 years ago, and if that was just in 2019, then maybe he did misspeak in his interview just recently, saying that he bought it in 2018 when really it was 2017. But he just bought that $100 worth to prove a point that it was really worthless and it was going to go down. On January 12, 2021, he called Bitcoin a nothing burger.
Okay, let me pivot you in a completely different direction. You and I originally clashed, if you want to call it that, around a topic that you're so ingrained with. It's part of your brand. It's Bitcoin. And Bitcoin has had a resurgence in interest because it's had a resurgence in value. You know, I'm going to give you a chance to talk to institutional investors here when you think about it that want to understand, are they missing out on something, or is it just another fad? I know, and you know, I'm kind of agnostic to it. I'm like everybody else saying, if it works, I should own some. But frankly, all I've seen so far is volatility. There would be tremendous value in a currency, a digital currency, and every time I talk to you about this, it's the same topic I look at the asset value of Bitcoin versus the asset value of all things traded. And Bitcoin is still a nothing burger, a giant nothing burger.
Even as late as February 10th of 2021, he was a public skeptic, but to be fair, it does sound like he's starting to warm up to the idea.
I have a crypto wallet. I really do, and I like it. Let me just check what it's worth, okay? I'll tell you how this happened. I was lecturing at Harvard one night to the graduating class. They challenged me to be an investor in crypto, and I said, you know what? I have no problem with that. In fact, I'll risk $100. I'll buy every single crypto that's out there that was available 3 years ago on Coinbase. Now, what's it worth today? Remember, I put in $100? $88.97. What happened? How come I didn't make a ton of money? Because not all cryptos are equal. Bitcoin is great. All the rest are crypto crap. So here I am at $88.97. Who do I call to get my money back? Oh no, there isn't anybody. That's the problem. This is not backed by anything. It's just backed by your faith. But I really would like to know how to get back that 18 bucks that I've lost. Call me.
Okay, well that was pretty ridiculous because whenever you lose money in the stock market, who do you call to get your money back? But it does sound like he's starting to warm up to Bitcoin. Then on March 2nd of 2021, he flipped.
Once vowing to never invest in Bitcoin, Mr. Wonderful Kevin O'Leary has done a 180 and has warmed up to the idea of crypto. We are getting the lowdown from the man himself today. Kevin, you were not a fan of Bitcoin. You had called it a nothing burger, a garbage investment. So I called Nancy, your director of public relations, and I said, is this fake news? And she said, no, it's true. So I was like, I need to get Kevin on and know, why the change of heart?
So when facts change, I change. And what changed my mind, and I was very specific on it, was I'm in the ETF business. And when I saw that the Canadian regulator and the Swiss regulator and many other regulators, that this has happened just in the last 60 days, have opened up to allow a ETF that holds one asset, Bitcoin. Now that's a game changer. There's no question about it. That allows institutions and individuals alike to allocate. And that's number one on the hit parade that really moved me, because I have actually owned crypto since 2017, Ethereum and Bitcoin, but not really been able to speak about it because regulators really frowned on it. More and more and more, as you're obviously reporting, people are starting to say, I'm going to allocate to this as a hedge against inflation, as a store of value, in some cases as a currency. I find it way too volatile to be a currency. However, I am going to go to 3%. It's like you said, either you believe in it or you don't. You have to make that decision. It's binary, yes or no. That's the decision you have to make. And I've made the yes decision, and I've taken lots and lots and lots of flack. You are not the only person that's pointed out what I've said in the past. Unfortunately, in a digital world, every comment I've ever made is already
There's
out
a footprint.
All right, so now it's starting to come together. It looks like he bought about $100 worth back in 2017 to prove that it was going to go down. Then when it started to go back up, he flipped and he upped his allocation to about 3%. But when did Kevin actually partner with FTX, and was that the real cause of his flip? The first video I could find of him pushing FTX was on September 16th of 2021, which does line up with his testimony that he partnered with them in August.
Why FTX US, and does it solve your compliance problems?
Yes, it does. I don't endorse products or services that I don't actually use. Institutional grade compliance. So I've been able to do that. I've been able to structure a situation where I can manage now my own portfolio on an FTX, and I'm starting to build up from a 3% weighting up to 7% in my operating company by the end of the year, and I'm going to be using FTX to do it. So I feel very comfortable endorsing this product for what it provides as a service.
And was the deal paid in dollars or in crypto? And I guess I know you mentioned a little bit about your portfolio, so what does that really look like now?
Well, actually, I didn't want to be paid in dollars. I want the smartest guys on the trading desk at FTX to tell me what I should own. It's that simple, because they get to look at a lot of different products from all around the world. I want crypto. I want to have an allocation of around 7%. And I don't want it to be just in Bitcoin. That's not diversified enough. So I'm building a portfolio with them now, deciding what I want to hold. That's just one use case of what the future holds for decentralized finance. And I think FTX is at the fore of all that. And why wouldn't I want to be associated with a player like that? It makes total sense for me.
All right, looks like we figured it out. After he flipped in March, it took about 6 months for SBF to
call me
and for them to make a deal. Maybe Kevin O'Leary wasn't lying and he really was anti-crypto. He probably really didn't buy any crypto before 2017, or so I thought. But then I found this video from 2013. It is a little old and it's kind of blurry though.
Just 2 months ago, each Bitcoin was worth only $20. And now, as you heard, it's huge. All of that volatility in the value of Bitcoins has some economists wondering if there is a Bitcoin bubble and if Bitcoins really have a future as a currency. Kevin O'Leary is our business commentator and the chair of O'Leary Funds. We know he has a thought or two on that. Nice to see you in studio again this morning. What's going on with this huge rise from $20 way up into the hundreds and then a precipitous fall yesterday?
Well, let's remember that until yesterday, most people around the world never heard of Bitcoin. Bitcoin, for those who don't know it, is basically virtual currency, the same that you get for blasting aliens in a video game, except now traded globally. You can buy Bitcoins with virtually any currency on Earth and convert back into any currency, or buy goods and services with it. It has no basis, no central banker, no hard asset behind it. But if you don't trust any other currency, this is where you go. So essentially what's happening here, Heather, people all around the world are saying, I've had it with my central banker. I don't trust politicians anymore. I'm going to trade with this currency with my computer and my cell phone. So I ignore everything till it gets to $1 billion of market cap.
Okay.
That happened recently with Bitcoin, well over $1 billion in value. So it's here to stay. When you've accumulated a virtual worth of $1 billion and people are willing to trade it and actually buy things with it, turn it back into hard assets. And here's the key, Heather. Owners of hard assets are willing to take Bitcoin. This is here to stay. That's what's going to happen. And no central banker can control it.
Is it a legitimate form of currency to trade?
It is. And as soon as it passed $1 billion and someone bought a hard asset with it, in my books, as an investor, it became real. Now, at the same time, because relative to all other currencies, it's tiny. $1 billion is irrelevant in the currency market. Remember, the currency markets are the largest markets on Earth, bigger than commodities, bigger than stocks, bigger than bonds. It's going to grow, but it's going to take a long time. But the key is volatility. nobody's going to put a large part of their net worth into this thing because it can go up and down 60% in a day, as we saw yesterday. But is it here to stay? Oh, yeah. So will I take 2 or 3% in Bitcoins? I think I might. I'm going to start looking at it.
Are you really? I was going to say, are you into this at all?
I have a basket of currencies, Heather. The way you diversify your risk in currencies is to own many of them. I own euros, I own Swiss francs, I own Canadian dollars, American dollars, and I might start to dabble, a little dabble-dooey of Bitcoin.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
That was way back in 2013, and he really contradicted most of his anti-crypto statements from later years. To me, he sounded pretty bullish, but you be the judge. Let me know what you think in the comments. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.
So basically, that's a nice way of saying people smell bullshit a mile away. If there's one thing that's happened over the last decade in social media is that bullshit is just radioactive. The minute you get caught lying, you're basically disconnected from the whole thing. That's your premise, right?